surgery and medicine. I did medicine because medicine started at 9 o'clock in the morning and surgery started at 8. I promise you, if surgery started at 9 and medicine started at 8, I'd have been a surgeon. That literally was how complicated the decision was for me.
Right, with us in the talk show is Danny Bloomfield. It's like a guy I know from some leadership program, and I was always interested, in how you're doing what you're doing. I heard that you're a doctor and something about Caribbean, that you set up a project. I heard you sharing.
Yeah.
But I never really talked to you like in person. So I'm really glad that you said yes to the show and that you're here with us tonight. And really looking forward to this conversation with you. So is there anything you want to say before we start?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. That the best saying ever. Let's go. Right. So we always start with one question. Like who or how are you being as a teenager? Like what were you dealing with, right? In that times when the body changes, the expansion of, let's say, responsibilities or interests. It's like everything expands. And maybe also what were you missing at the time, or what was working for you at the time?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I don't normally. I sort of walk around in life now trying not to be a teenager, right?
Yeah.
That was an interesting life. I still think I am. I'm trying to. Yeah, but
Got
what
it.
was
Me
I?
too.
Hear the question again. The first one. There was a few questions in there. What was
Yeah,
it
there
like?
was. Yeah, who or how were you being as a teenager, right? What were you dealing with at the time?
Yeah, well, teenager. So 13. I was in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
I'm born in. I am from the Caribbean. I'm born in Jamaica. My dad's an engineer, and he moved us to Trinidad when I was 2, and then Barbados when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teenager, I was in Barbados, and then and then and look, maths was my subject, so I'm answering the question mathematically to start with. So at the age of 13, I was in Barbados, and then the age of 17 and 18, I was in the UK doing my last 2 years of high school. And what it was like for me, well, I have a I have a twin sister. So I went through being a teenager with a twin sister who was more sociable. I mean, they say girls move ahead
Mm.
faster than boys, but I had a very sociable twin sister, and I think as a teenager, I was always the less sociable of the two of us, and preoccupied mainly with trying to make it academically in my subjects
Mm-hmm.
and sport. Those are like my two. They were my two main preoccupations. I was going to say my biggest interest, but of course, one of my interests going as a teenager was definitely the opposite sex.
Mm.
But it's not like, and that was something I was dealing with, like my attraction to people and relationships and being interested in how to be cool in conversations with the opposite sex. But really, my life was about school and hobbies, and the hobbies included sports, and
Mm-hmm.
then later on in life they included music as well, sports and music.
All right.
And then at the age of 18 and then 19 off I was to university, so that's quite tidy. It was all secondary school,
Mm-hmm.
schooling, sports, and trying to fit in. And my
All
way to
right.
fit in was to do well at school. um, and I hadn't done well at school early in life.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had this fluke of a life when I was very young. I was too young for my year and my twin sister. We had to stay down when I was like 9.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I pretty much decided I was a fairly stupid guy. I used to fail at a lot of stuff and had to be punished by standing up in class in the assembly. Actually, every month they had like a. I can't believe it happened, but they'd make the least well performing students stand up every month, and I was one of those guys who stood up every month as a terribly performing student. That was so like, embarrassed and trying to hold my composure in those moments that my best friend would tie my shoelaces together,
Mm-hmm.
and I would struggle to sit down again without falling over because we all sat on the floor in Trinidad.
All right.
So I was a very badly performing student who stayed down, and then I got good at maths, and then and I run, and then I realized maths was my thing. I knew more. I knew that a third was bigger than a quarter at that age when everybody else in my class, when I repeated, didn't.
Mm.
And then I stuck with maths, and then I went to Barbados, and we did the same books the third year in a row. It was incredible. So I went from like terribly performing student to person who was very good at maths particularly, but all, you know, English as well. So when I did the common entrance, the 11 plus it was called in Barbados,
Mm.
I ended up getting into the top school, and you know, I now was like someone who was very high performing academically, who thought he'd fluked it in life because I was really a dunce a few years ago, right?
Mm.
So going through my teenage years was very much about protecting this newfound status as a smart kid that I, by some fluke of staying down and moving country, got to have, you know. So I had this status as one of the smartest kids in my school or my class, and that was important for me to protect all the way through my teenage years.
Mm.
Very important that I came one of the top students in most of my subjects, which I narrowed down based on how much math was involved. So maths, chemistry, physics. The languages I found more mathematical than history and English literature and subjects you had to write essays in. Those were like
yeah.
So I had this choice of subjects where I could do well by being precise, you know. Even languages I thought was kind of mathematical, you know, the conjugation of verbs. There was something quite systematic to it for me. And so teenage years was about protecting my status as a smart kid and playing sport.
So what did you play?
Initially table tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Now tennis throughout. My parents are great tennis players from the Caribbean. And so tennis, but then I became really passionate age 11, 12, 13, 14 about table tennis.
All right.
Until I got some funny like growing problem. I think it's called Osgood-Schlatter's disease, and I couldn't play table tennis, and then it was tennis, and then it became squash later on as well.
Yeah. And what does that disease cause that you couldn't play table tennis? Because I don't know it. Yeah.
It's great. We're on Zoom. We can like something like right below my kneecap, above my like the top of my. It's right below my kneecap, where the tendon below the kneecap inserts into the top of the shin bone. Woke up one day with a lot of pain there and couldn't really run around, and it had something to do with the rate at which I was growing.
All right.
Yeah, I was the tiniest boy in my class till I was 14, right? Like this real pipsqueak, and then I really started to grow from 14. I grew like, I don't know, a foot, 14 inches in like 2.5 years or something. And
yeah, I don't know how much that is. You know, we have a metric system, but I could imagine it's like, how much is a foot in metrics? Anybody? Chat? Do you know?
30 centimeters.
All right. Yeah, that's a lot. So
about that, yeah. And so yeah, then I stopped table tennis, and it was tennis. And eventually, when I came to England at the age of 17, I did the last 2 years of high school in England.
Okay.
Went to boarding school in England, which was really amazing, except it was freezing cold. And that's where I transitioned from outdoor sports, tennis and golf as well, to playing squash purely on the basis that it was indoors.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But let me ask you, right, a couple of questions. Like, how, besides like what you mentioned, right, with that protecting the being smart, how was it for you? How did you find all this moving around? Because you made friends, right? In Jamaica, not that much because you were 2.5 when you moved out. But, you know, then later on you made friends and then you leave them behind. So how was that for you?
Yeah, good question. You're right. Transitioning to Trinidad at the age of 2.5, no big deal, right? My earliest memories are being in Trinidad, and I don't feel I missed anything out in that move. But at the age of 10, moving to another country, I mean, I had good friends, you know, I loved my friends when I was 8, 9, 10. These were like cherished people. I love them, you know. And the answer is, you know, I felt like I felt a lot of loss at the time leaving, right? Like it's not like I had any other life to compare to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just
But
like your life almost. I mean, I imagine it's almost like your life is over. Right.
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't that bad because
Okay.
it was exciting. It was exciting moving to a new
Okay.
place,
All right.
right?
Cool.
And I think moving as well, having a twin sister, honestly, I think is a gift
Mm.
because wherever I went and as a teenager, including to boarding school, as my twin sister was with me.
Ah, all right.
But when I came away
Got
for
it. Yeah.
A levels, my twin sister was on the plane with me. Went back on holidays, and she's like, she's a gift. She was like the most popular
Mm.
girl in town, definitely, right? And I was her brother, so just to be with her, and we were good. Moving to Barbados, but then I lost a lot of good friends, and it was a bit mind bending for me. Like, oh my gosh, like other people here have grown up with people all their life, and my friends that I grew up with to this point, they're not in my life, and I found that a bit sad. It wasn't like life was over, but it was sad that I didn't have that. And I still feel kind of like, gosh, there are people who grew up with people all through their lives, and they have them, and I don't have that, right? I have primary school friends who I haven't spent time with much
Mm.
since I was 10. I have secondary school friends who I haven't spent much time with since I was 16, 17 in Barbados, apart from a few select friends in that group. And listen, I think for me, it I had a strong need as a teenager to look cool and look like somebody, and in some quirky way, it worked to not have people that really knew me that well, and to move around.
All right. I got it.
Because I could take with me my present performance as a teenager. Your kudos, at least my kudos. I don't know about anybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
My kudos came from doing well in academic subjects, right? Which were, Barbados has the equivalents of the O levels, that the Caribbean does, and called the CXCs. And then in the Caribbean, we did A levels. In England, we did A levels. I was the same educational system, and my explanation is having stayed down twice, essentially, right? But I was a very high performing student in that system, and that looked good wherever I went. So, and going to places where people didn't know me, I could arrive and perform at a high level, and for me, gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And I was okay that people didn't know me and have any kind of like, I could sort of protect an air of being like somebody without flaws, because nobody really knew me. So it worked in some weird way. It worked to move around.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely, right? And what I also hear is like there is a lot of people out there who would say, here is Danny, he moved a lot, he got a lot of experience, right? He's like, now in UK, successful, etc., etc. And comparing to you, right? And vice versa, you're comparing to the people who have friends for their whole life. It's like they have it and I don't have it. Like, and it's a funny thing discovering that about human beings, right? It's just like we are constantly comparing to put ourselves down, no matter in what situation is. And then you said like, yeah, and then how I make it. I was good at academia. It was the same system, so I just came in, performed. It worked well because people don't know you, like you said it. So it's really funny how we adapt to
but I was really insecure naturally, right?
Yeah.
In fact, the funny thing is, it's accurate to say I was like the top student in my school in England in maths and chemistry. I think physics I was maybe the second or third, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are my subjects, okay? Like the top. But the students who were like second, third, fourth, fifth, I definitely experienced some jealousy and resentment towards them, given my experience that I was not that smart, because I knew I wasn't, right? It was a certainty that I wasn't. At some point in my life, I was the kid who had to stand up through. I'd get 2 out of 10 in spelling,
Mm-hmm.
Now I look back, I didn't work very hard at it because I thought I was stupid. But I was really clear that I was stupid at the age of 8. And at the age of 9, I was clear that given I was stupid, maths was the way to look smart.
Mm-hmm.
And, then excelling after that, I was I really felt fundamentally I was a very average person who had been somehow highly educated. And the other kids who got second, third, fourth, fifth behind me were the really smart ones, because that wasn't me. I'd never have made it without staying down once in moving country. So I kind of like, they were the really, really genuinely talented, smart kids. And
Yeah,
I
and
was
you,
like, I was in awe of them, really.
yeah.
You know?
And I can relate to what you just shared. You just connected me back to my grammar school. So I have the similar things, just that the opposite, the other subject that you have. So you have math, physics, and chemistry. I was no good in that, in my opinion, right? But for me, it was like in grammar school, it was biology and history and geography. That was like, those are my kind of subjects, you know. And I loved history and geography through high school as well, like the best performing. So in a way, I think like we, you know, many of us adapt in a way, like in school through some subjects. Okay, I'm cool. And
Yeah.
it's really cool what you shared, right? It gives you and it gives everybody who is watching, listening, like we just decide things when we are 7 8, and then you said I believe that through the age of 18, and it is like that. Or some people are with that, staying with that through their entire life. I'm no good in math, so don't ask me any mathematical thing. And then you even make fun of yourself in that, and even like make it bigger, and really like that's the truth. I'm no good in it. Even though you never really put an effort into it, because at the age of 6 you were asked how much is 1 plus 1, and you said 3, and it was like everybody left, and you were like, all right, I'm out. Huh?
Yeah, and look, I have an experience of not being good at maths, but maths gets really easy when you spend 3 years in a row at the stage when you're learning fractions and decimals, which is what I did. The same book, 3 years in a row, just when you're learning 1/3, never having come across a fraction before, and just when you're learning decimals and how to do multiplication and division and all these things.
Yeah.
You know, maths after that does definitely become easy. At least it does at a high school level. But hell, history wasn't easy at all, or English literature.
Exactly.
You know, like questions about why would this, what's the interpretation of this, or what do you think they were thinking? I was like, you know, how quickly can I drop this subject, which is definitely going to expose my stupidity.
Yeah.
And the irony is, if I could go back, I would do history for sure. History, fascinating. English literature, I do all these subjects that I didn't do. English literature. I dropped biology because I thought the teacher didn't like me, which is really nonsense, but biology as well was kind of like that. There was some essay writing. It was like, but I think I'd done history, I'd have done English literature, and then I'd have done some stuff, like I'd have done performing stuff, I was a sports player, but I'd have done like acting, or when I came to England, I think if I'd stayed in I don't know, if I'd grown up in England, I think I'd have wanted to do some acting. But when I landed in England with a Caribbean accent, it's funny because acting's about, you put on accents, but I was like, I have this Caribbean accent, I'm stuffed.
Oh yeah, it's limitation already.
Yeah, you can't put me in a Shakespeare play with saying, talking with a Caribbean accent. But of course, actors put the accent on. I just couldn't. I don't know. It just wasn't accessible to me. But I would act. I'd go do history. Just do things that were really, really cool to learn about life, and that's what I'd do if I went back.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. By the way, I don't know how to say this name, Karina, but Kutsia says hi. Do you know?
Yes.
Did I say it correctly? I don't know if I said it correctly.
It's Kutsia.
All right, Kutsia. And then Lois, yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. It's a shame we can't talk, right?
We can. They can write in chat, and then we can talk. And by the way, Lois boy has a question. Question for my man with the Christmas tree. What kind toothpaste you on? They have white teeth. I don't get the question, to be honest, but I make my own toothpaste. That's it.
I use Sensodyne, but it's because the toothpaste thing just stands up nicely on the end of it.
Sometimes it's like English is my second language. I do not always understand all the questions that pop up, so I said I don't know. Maybe rephrase, but yeah, that's it. All right, we got a sense, right? So you were moving, you were doing great in academia level with everything related to math. And yeah, maybe let also touch this subject. So how were you then, with the opposite sex, discovering that? How was that for you? That is kind of important topic when you're a teenager. You're like having some sorts of I had an idea, I will meet a girl and we will stay together for the whole life, and have a family together, and then you go out there. In reality, I was very mistrusting to girls. Have experience in grammar school. When I asked her she want to be my girlfriend, she said no, and 2 weeks later, because I don't want to date schoolmate, and then 2 weeks later she's kissing a schoolmate. So I was like, girls are not to be trusted. They say one thing, do another. So that was how I went through. So how did you find it? How did you find it? How it was for you?
It was awkward, man. I mean, I didn't have a girlfriend until I was in my last year of high school. So I definitely, there were other people who had girlfriends. And, my sister was socializing from when I was 15, 16 years old. She was out in the clubs partying like crazy. And I think I'd have liked to have been out there. I just didn't feel particularly cool. And I found it really, really awkward to have a conversation with women. Definitely. With my few close male friends, we just chat. I had some really, really good male friends. But with women, I think they were like a different species at the time. And they aren't. And I've learned that in recent years. And I mean, like in the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s now. So, but it's like,
I wouldn't say you're in your 40s, but in your 40s, that means age from 30 to 40 or from 40 to 50?
No, I'm 45 years old.
Yeah, come on, bullshit, man. I call bullshit. I don't believe you. You don't look 45.
I know that. I know. Lucky me, right?
Yeah.
Despite not having any hair, I still look.
Yeah.
But I definitely at that stage was like, it was awkward. I felt I had to say something impressive constantly, and I had an idea of a relationship would be with someone I just totally was super attracted to, someone really attractive. I definitely wanted that and had a view of that, and was chasing that some way. But when I say chasing it, I was chasing it by not chasing it. I was
got it.
admiring it from a distance. Okay. So, I mean, I didn't, there was a very good friend of mine at school who was in my class with the other guys, the geek crew, She wasn't a geek. She was very normal. And she was a good friend of mine, but there was nothing romantically going on there. And, there were women who were academically in class with me. They were friends with me. That's fine. But somehow the ones I was really interested in, I just never would go and speak to.
Yeah. They were out of your league.
Yeah, I would not even have approached to say anything to. So my first girlfriend really was like, how did I end it? She happened to be on the same ski trip I was on at high school. Happened to be, and I don't know, she's just a sweetheart, and nothing required to impress her, despite my feeling I need to impress people. I really got on well, actually, I mean, that didn't end well because, what am I saying? It ended, we're friends. So it ended well in that sense. But at the time, it was devastating. Because I went to university and she stayed back in boarding school, and communication was just difficult and it was intense. And she's trying to pass her exams and it just didn't work out. But that was devastating. But, and that didn't enhance my confidence in women.
Yeah.
I think it's still there by default. I'm still a teenager like that. Like, they're on a pedestal. But at that time, they were like crazy, amazing people. My sister, I'm telling you, my twin sister is this popular woman, Julie. I don't know
her. I'm just saying I get that she's a popular.
She's just amazing, and her friends were amazingly cool, wonderful people, and I just didn't think I was in their league.
Exactly.
And, they were I think I had some fear that they'd find out that I wasn't the cool, smart dude that I appeared to be, or something like this. It was safer for me to be my sister's brother and not say anything. The moment I said anything, I could only fall down, right? As far as I was concerned, right? Because there's no way I could be as cool as my sister. No way. So I look good just being my sister's brother. That was my drama.
Mm.
We've had chats about that in recent years, and she says to me that, Danny, you never hung out with my friends, man. She's kind of upset that I never gave much time to them, but I thought they were this cool bunch of people that I just couldn't hang out with them. And yeah, drama.
Yeah,
Really
right.
awkward. It's awkward, you know,
Yeah,
being a teenager, but it's still awkward to some extent.
I got it. It's like, I don't have a twin sister. I have a younger brother. But anyway, in a regard to I had my first serious relationship when I was 20 years old, like not even in high school, right? So, but I always want one, and I totally relate. Like, I thought a lot of girls was out of my league, and those who were in my league, so to speak, I had no interest in them, right? So I didn't want to talk to those ones. Always go for the second best, or third best. Like they should be my. So yeah, but and I totally get you in that sense, yeah. And it is awkward. It is. It's like how to talk to them. What do I say? What if I say something stupid? Then she will think I'm stupid.
Yeah, yeah. What a waste, eh?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's total nonsense. That it's like, I do these workshops for teenagers, and they ask me, how to say somebody you like that you like them. And I say, well, go out there and say it, If they say yes, you will be together. If they say no, you know, you will go next, right? Instead
Yeah,
of not saying anything, you're slowly falling in love, being half a year in love, secretly watching, all this creepy stuff that people notice, but you think they don't notice, but they notice. And then you go like put a brave suit on and say, hey, would you be my girlfriend? She said, yeah, well, I'm in a relationship now for 2 months, and you missed your shot, and then like, damn it,
yeah.
so
I'm with you. Just go and say you like. There's no reason not to, you know. I
exactly.
mean, now there's no reason not to just say hello. My name's. I mean, I'll say my name, Danny, and
Yeah,
how's it going? Like just or someone I know, how's life, and actually listen to what they have to say.
exactly.
Like I was so clear that everything in the interaction that was important involved me having to say something impressive, which is
Mm,
rubbish.
yeah.
So I didn't, and that was my preoccupation with, but definitely with women, So that was really not. No wonder I didn't learn about that. That women were just people,
Yeah.
because I had no interest in discovering that. It was like I was sure they were like this, you know, amazing thing to sort of like. I don't know, man. I didn't have any kind of winning strategy there. It
Yeah.
was so there. I wasn't really like learning about them as just people and getting friendly with them, like
Mm.
genuinely friendly with people. It was always something to impress or you know.
Yeah, I've got it. And it's so brilliant what you're sharing, right? Because, you know, there are, as a teenagers, you go through tons of motions, right? And in one hand, they say, start thinking about what you're gonna do for the rest of your life. Which school you're gonna pick. Then you have this love life. Then there are hobbies, right? And then you need to maintain some image that you put on for yourself. And I'm smiling or laughing here because it now looking back, it's really ridiculous. But at that time, I mean, this was it. This was, and pretending that you know it all. That's like the best one that you pretend when you're a teenager. I know it all, mom. I know it all. I don't need your advice or stuff like that. And then in fact, you don't know nothing, and you're afraid of it that people will find out that you know nothing or that you're not this cool person.
Yes, I only had like
So
one dimension. Hey, you're in it. I don't know how this is going to go. My doorbell just went, right? Like there's
yeah,
an Amazon parcel. I'm going to leave that and see what happens.
all
It
right.
might happen again. These interviews from home and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a doctor, I work from home occasionally. I do clinics,
All
but
right.
I'm straight up that it's from home. Yeah, there it is again. Should I
Go,
leave
go,
out of
go.
the?
Go, go,
Okay,
go.
I'm
Yeah,
back.
go grab it. Yeah, it's live stream. It's all about communities. Hey, Kutsia, how you doing? Thank you for popping by. I appreciate it. Uh, yeah. So, this is how live stream goes. It's like, it's all part of life. And, you know, then he got an Amazon package. So we'll wait for him to get back. So guys, if you have any questions for me or for Danny or regarding the topic we're talking about, just shoot, or any comments. It's a live conversation. That's why I love to stream. It's having live conversations with you guys. So you can watch it as a TV, or you can interact with us. It would be awesome. Both ways are working.
Right, I'm back.
All
I had
right.
to run down and upstairs.
Okay, that was quick. You're in shape, I guess, or your stairs are not long.
Combination.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So, okay, we got the picture, right? So you're now end of your high school, and then you did what? Went to university, working?
Yeah, university. So I went to University of England, it was Cambridge.
Mhm.
And at that time, when we applied to university, there weren't that many broad science courses. And let's face it, up to that point, all my choices in life was about which were my best subjects.
Mhm.
So, at that point, my best subject, let's say, was maths, chemistry. And I really didn't know what to do. Like, A levels wasn't really purposeful. It was about doing subjects that I was good at, let's say, right? And that really was how I selected them. Like I said, it wasn't the ones I was interested in.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I probably would have selected English literature and history, etc. So, and I probably would have done languages and gone traveling or something like that. I had a whole different life. I did do languages, but it was to do well at them versus to travel. There's no
Yeah.
context for traveling or anything like that. So when I went to university, it was a bit of a crisis because now my good subject was chemistry, and I had to look at the idea of doing chemistry as some kind of life choice. And it was like, oh, I don't want to do that. So I ended up applying to 7 places for chemistry, and then Cambridge happened to have natural sciences where you could do like 4 subjects. And I thought, well, at least that keeps my options open because I really didn't know what I want to do.
Mhm.
So that's what I did. I went off to Cambridge doing natural sciences, and that was maths, chemistry. Initially, I would be doing physics again, believe it or not. And you had to do one biological subject where I took on something called biology of cells. But when I arrived, I just had this feeling that maths, physics, and chemistry, I just was like, I'm at the end of the road with learning these subjects and doing well at them, and the pressure of having to be, top, let's say, right? And I really didn't want to, on some level, it was clear to me that I just didn't want to continue doing more of that, more advanced, more what seemed to be more abstract stuff at the time, actually. So I did go do that's why I was really happy to get into Cambridge, because I could keep my options open with these subjects. And I switched to physiology from physics when I arrived. And that was a really good choice, because physiology was very interesting. I still did maths, I still did chemistry. Physiology we did with the medics. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is what you're asking, Johnny, about the transition, because I'm talking about the academic transition, right?
Oh yeah, it's perfect, right? Because as a teenager at the end, right, especially at the age of 18, 19, you're dealing with this decision, right?
Yeah.
Many like either you go work and then you go for whatever profession you are, or if you're in these schools, that then university is next logical step. It's like, and they say choose well, it's gonna be for life, it's gonna what you'll be doing for life for the next 40 years. Even now that's reduced, but when I was growing up, and it still somehow holds up from the older generation, I think now more and more that will start to shift, and it's already shifting out there, but still, right? And I have, before we go further with that, I have a question, because I don't know the applyment for universities in UK, right? I know how you apply in Slovenia. You basically pick a faculty that you want to do. So it's either economics, and then I chose faculty of economics, and then I got all the subjects that I got. I couldn't pick subject. It's like they were in there, and there was some like list of, I don't know, 8 subjects, and I needed to pick 2 of them. That sounds interesting to me. And I went business finance, let's say, the direction of it, and there more directions, right? But you were saying, so you only needed to pick 4 subjects, so you had only 4 subjects through whole out the year, or inside those subjects there were under subjects? Just to give me a brief insight of the how university works.
Yeah, I suppose. So if I'd done chemistry, I mean, this is university in 1992, okay? 1994.
All right.
Started in 94, October 94, right? And it was subjects, okay? So if I'd done chemistry, presumably I'd done organic chemistry, physical chemistry, I don't know what other, I can't even remember the other types.
All right, okay, cool.
But in natural sciences, each subject, I mean, physiology means physiology of the heart, physiology of the lungs, and other parts of the,
human body, yeah.
Right? Human body. I guess biology of cells, I can't remember. Well, I can't remember what we learned in that. Don't mind, I'm a doctor now. But, and then maths, there'd have been different subjects within maths, but it really was those subjects, right? Like you did economics. I don't even know what economics looks like, right? And if you were doing medicine has physiology and pathology and anatomy and
All right, got it. So it's similar. I thought it, by the way you said it, I thought it's some kind of different, but it's not.
It was definite subjects I was doing.
Yeah.
I was doing so you apply to courses, but the course I applied to is natural sciences, and you had to choose 4 subjects.
All right, got it. Yeah. Then it's similar to here. So you apply to economics, and then you choose the direction of economics. So it's either business, finance, management, and then you have subjects in there. One are obligated, and one are you can choose.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm happy to, and I ended up as a doctor.
Yeah. So how did you end up as a doctor?
Well, it's a combination of things. I think choosing those subjects again, maths and chemistry at university, when I pretty much bankrupted my interest in them at that time. I mean, my interest as subjects on their own, right? And then finding I had lectures on a Saturday, it was like the perfect crisis for me. I was doing these subjects I didn't really feel passionate about, and I had 3 lectures on a Saturday, which was honestly, I had to look at my life and go, I can't believe I have 3. This is university now. Everybody's enjoying their weekends, and their Friday nights they're enjoying, but I'm up for a lecture at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and 12 o'clock on a Saturday. So my Saturdays started at 1. I have to be up early on a Saturday, and it started at 1 o'clock, and I thought, this is awful. And I really wasn't interested in them, and I started to get very bored with my life. And things were going badly with my girlfriend now, who's at school and I'm at university, and I was just not enjoying it. And I decided I had to do something. It was it really forced a crisis for me, having those subjects on a weekend, I have to tell you, right? My choice to do medicine was through my arm being twisted to want to do something not on a Saturday. It wasn't because I wanted to help humanity or help people or was even interested in medicine at that point. I just had to get away from doing 3 lectures on a Saturday that I really wasn't that interested in anymore. It really didn't appeal to me to try and come top in these subjects. It just wasn't that interesting. And I found the subject matter itself, I don't remember being particularly interesting. So I basically resolved to do something that didn't have lectures on a Saturday. And it turned out for me that would be engineering, because I was well qualified to do that. And that seemed just more physics and maths. And then one day I went to the medics, with the medics to their lecture, and there was a fascinating lecture, anatomy lecture. And I just thought all these students are so interested in this lecture, and it's about our body, and it seemed to have so much purpose to it. And then I decided to switch to medicine. And then and that's what happened. And I think another influence was my girlfriend wanted to be a medic, and her enthusiasm rubbed off on me.
All right.
So I'm just grateful to her that I met her, and when I told her I was thinking of medicine, she arranged for me to meet people who she knew who were doctors who I did work experience with, and I just rolled from there. And I was just so happy when I switched to medicine to be doing something that seemed genuinely purposeful. And it wasn't even like I wanted to be a doctor at that point. but I was doing something very relevant, very, very, very relevant, very interesting, and where I felt that my knowledge to that point of maths, physics, and chemistry was really, really, also really very useful.
All right, I got it. And now I have right the question. It's like, so when you shifted to medicine, it's like, did you miss a year in that or not, or how was that for you, or you know, because it sounds like here in Slovenia it would be like if you would be doing the faculty of microbiology, let's say, and then switch to medicine, right? It means you need to go to the other faculty, and you cannot do it in the same year because you need to cover some subjects from the past, or it would, you would lost a year at least to transition, in so to speak, right? And then there is the parents' influence in a way. How can you do it? You started one thing, you should finish that. You will drop a year, you will look bad and stuff like that. That is some things that we are going through motions in Slovenia when we want to change, or stuff like that. So my question here is like, was that like is that easier to be done there? It's like, or did you also lost a year? How did your parents take it? Did they even know? I mean, and it's a great thing that you share, right? You were put in a crisis, and in that moment, you were able to self reflect and say, okay, I need to do something else because I don't want to go forward with that. And I think that it's something, we all can take from. It's like if you're in some place that it's not going great, do something about it, right? And it's okay to shift. So, yeah, I put a lot of questions in there, but yeah.
Yeah, like it was when I got clear I wanted to do medicine, I was like really clear I wanted to do that, you know. And I actually wanted to initially I wanted to go to the same university that my girlfriend would be going to. She didn't get into Cambridge, and I thought, well, I want to go to Nottingham, right? And I wrote to them, and they said yes, they'd take me, but I'd have to defer a year or something, and take a year out, and I just didn't want to do that. So I approached people in my university, and they said that they had one transfer place every year that they gave to someone. It was a competitive process, and I basically needed to win that place, which is what I did.
All right.
I really put my nose down. I studied very, very, very hard, in a very disciplined way for many, many weeks, and won that transfer place, right? So it wasn't easy to switch. I don't know how many people wanted to, but there was only one place. So and I really went for it. And
All right.
I feel still to this day, I feel like it was one of my greatest achievements, because I wasn't interested in my subjects and then I studied for like 2-3 months and did very well. And I was just so joyful to get that switch. And that really took something. But once I switched, I didn't lose a year. What was strange, the way it worked in this particular university was you had to do 2 years of core subjects. And then you did a third year, which was like, it could be anything, There's a very wide variety. It could even sociological stuff. It wasn't all typical medical stuff, I failed sociology, right? There I am talking about important, right? I had to pass it again. But it is important medical subject, right?
Yeah, I got it, yeah. But yeah.
Go on.
No, you go on, then I'll say.
Yeah, so where was I? So yeah, you do these 2 years, and then there you do a third year. All that happened was I switched, did the first 2 years of medicine. You had to do 3 years to get a degree. I had already done another year. I got a degree, and I don't even know what the degree said. It just said Bachelor of Arts, and I was able to move to clinical school. So after 3 years, I was able to move to clinical medical school, which is where you start seeing patients, just as quickly as if I'd started doing medicine in the first place. I actually didn't lose any time there.
All right, that's great. And it's really great what you're sharing in a way that, if you really want something, it's a great expression. I'm not familiar with it, but I like it. Put your nose down, which is like put your nose in the books and go study hard. Right? So you put your nose down, or if you want to do sports or whatever area you want to do, you dig in, work hard in a way of, learn stuff, do what you need to do to get the skills, and then do that, right? And that's
Yeah,
so
that was a
great.
really
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Yeah, that was a really uncomfortable time for me because it was completely all about performance, and
Mm.
I really wanted it, and I really didn't think I was going to get it. I didn't, I knew I had to do very, very well, and I'd even go to the person who was they call him the senior tutor, the academic head of the college, and say, look, I really want to do this, and he just keeps saying to me, Danny, you got to get a good first, you know.
Mm.
And I'd go back and say, I really want to do this. And he'd never waver. Well, you're going to have to get this, you know? And I didn't like that. I mean, I heard it and I didn't like the fact of what I heard.
Yeah.
I kept wanting him to go, we'll have a look, you know, okay, you know, or we
Yeah.
can look at my subjects from when I did A levels and maybe we can use those and you can enter, right? No, it wasn't like that. I wasn't it wasn't like I was applying freshly. I was now in the system and the switch I had to get this and be the only person to get that in a competitive process. And so there was no like being nice about it. I had to, you know, or wishful thinking. I had to just there's no excuses, you know, there wasn't any thinking about it. I just got on with it. I was the first, and how I approached it was I resolved to be in the library 7 o'clock every morning. And I also resolved to be pretty much the last person out of the library at night. That didn't preclude me from sleeping in the library, which I did a lot. I slept in the library a lot, and I went to the library and also didn't work there a lot. But I was in there first and out last, and I at night. And I really, you know, I was like, it was discipline in being in a certain place. I put myself physically in the library. I would leave and play tennis every day, you know, and then I put myself physically back in the library till late. If I felt sleepy, I'd sleep, but I'd be there. And if what you know, and it really kept me on track. And man, it was such a great achievement to switch.
Right. It was, and it's also a great thing that you just said, right? I put myself in it. It's like, when you said that, I also love sports, basketball. You see the Bulls hats and stuff like that. So Jordan is one of my favorite. Yeah, Jordan is one of my favorite athlete of all time. I'm talking purely athlete, not everything from his life as a human being, because we all make mistakes. But as an athlete and work ethics of an athlete and his achievement in basketball and how he got to there is just like so inspirational. And when you said that, it reminded me of him. He was first in the practice, last one out, always want to win, and no matter what. And it's a great thing that you share. If you want something, put yourself in fully and, do something that most of the people won't.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like you said, it was competitive. You probably, like you said, you didn't know how many people, but there was a place. Most of the students are studying in the library, so that's it. That's the place. I'm gonna go first in, last one out. So I got this. And it's really cool stuff, like to share. In Slovenia it's not that common because we don't have campuses. So we are university in Ljubljana is divided in faculties, and they're all over city. Anyway, the whole city is big as probably as a campus because it's the population of 350,000 people is the capital. But still, right, it's all around, and each faculty has their own library. But when you live as a student in some student dorms or in a private apartment, it might be on the other side of Ljubljana, so you won't drive back and forward. So it's a bit different situation. But or you can say tons of excuses why not. But yeah, it's like just great thing that you shared, and you didn't know, right, if you will get it. I mean, how was that? Like, I want to still touch this process a little bit. How was that you didn't know? And, what was the mind process going in? Or if you ever thought about it, what if I don't get it?
You know what? I couldn't dwell on it too long. So it actually was like something I really wanted. But how it was, it didn't matter. It's really interesting. It's great you asked that question. I think I was so disciplined in my so routine. So listen, I was the first one in the library in the morning. My day did include going and playing tennis. It also included having a Guinness at about 7 o'clock every evening with a friend in the bar, and then I go back to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was like this. I was so disciplined. It enforced wanting it so badly, enforced me to be really disciplined, and I really enjoyed learning the subjects at that point. I just like, it was like there was nothing. It was quite peaceful
Well,
because it was really clear for me that's what I wanted. On some
exactly.
level, I must have believed it was achievable. Now, I feel like I didn't think I could quite do it, but I was still it was all in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was like, it was great. Now that I look back, it was very satisfying. I mean, the only parallel experience I have to that is trying to learn a really complicated piano piece where I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to learn it so badly. I just would love to learn it. I'd shocked myself with learning other pieces. Just wanted to learn this piece. And I practiced slowly, 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 slowly. And then to discover I could even start to do it, and then discover I could do it was just so joyful, right? But it wasn't like I knew I could do it really. But I
Yeah.
still was giving it a go.
All right.
And yeah, so in retrospect, it was a really enjoyable. Look, up to that point, I tell you what wasn't enjoyable was not knowing what I wanted to do.
That.
So that was really stressful and miserable and sad and lonely and all that, and so knowing what I wanted to do, even though I didn't know if I could succeed at it, was very, very satisfying.
Yeah, and that's so powerful what you just shared, right? So not knowing what to do, it's like you said, and then knowing what to do, right? And still not knowing if you will succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key factor, right? So you know what you want to do. So because how we often approach is like, I'm good in math, so I will be a math teacher. Let's say it that way, right? And you can be a math teacher because you know math, right? And preferably maybe you like people, so you want to work with people, so you go that direction. And but it's inside of knowing, like, I will succeed in that. It's not, the part there. But here it was a bit competitive, right? It was like only one person, maybe 20, 30 applicants, or even 5, or even if there was 2, and it's basically that you don't know, and you had to discover it. And like you said, with piano pieces is the same, right? You want to learn it so bad, but then you have to discover if you can do it or not. And I think that is the now when I see, it's like a real scary situation for most of the people out there, I would say, from my experience, right? We all kind of dwell in the things we know that we are good in, and keep being in those levels, not really researching or expanding in that way to go somewhere because you want it, and not knowing if you will succeed.
Yeah. And look, that wasn't the end of it for me. Switching to medicine wasn't like, now I knew what I wanted to do in life. It was just at that point in time, I knew I wanted to switch. I knew I wanted to do medicine. I mean, that's not really an end in itself.
Yeah.
But it was so much clearer than, what am I going to do with these subjects over here? Right? I'm going to do medicine. There's a purpose over here. There was just a sense of purpose. I didn't even want to be a doctor at that point. It wasn't like I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to switch to medicine. That really was it. It's funny because it seems quite trivial. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But, being a doctor is meaningful. But you see, I didn't have anything in chemistry or maths like I wanted to be a teacher, or I wanted to be an aircraft engineer, or there wasn't anything I was really passionate about. It was just learning the subjects to do well in exams. That was as big as my context was in those subjects. And after a while, that's really boring and hard. And it was stressful. I used to dread it all year. So the idea of switching to something purposeful like medicine, and being a doctor, like my girlfriend was this amazing, motivated person, just to be amongst this motivated group of people and have a purpose was really, really exciting. And,
all right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't get that transfer place. I have no idea.
Well, and you never will.
Yeah, and it wasn't on my mind. It was like purely that focus,
Yeah, and that's, I would say that is also the distinct between like in every, even if you watch it sports and people go, we're playing NBA finals or whatever, for like really important big things that, like, you know, you either succeed or fail. They always say the decision factor is not your skills, but who wants it more. Who wants it more will get it, because they're willing to go an extra inch or an, you know, and do an extra thing. Like you lock yourself in the library. I mean, that's an extra thing, even though you went out to play tennis and then for a beer, but you know, you were in there, and that's as itself was extraordinary, and
Yeah.
it's really cool.
And look, I wasn't competing with the people in the library in a way.
Yeah.
They weren't the people wanting to switch. It was just, I was just wanted it for myself. Really, I wasn't looking at anybody else. I just wanted it for myself.
Amazing. Karina, in the meantime, said, amazing, probably for the piano pieces. I gave up on the canon piece. I don't know the song. You probably know it.
I think it's the one. Na, 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 and it gets all, it's like pretty.
Maybe, I don't know, Karina. Confirm in the chat if that's the piece. I don't know the piece. But yeah, all right, cool. And then you said you did that, and then it happened the clinical practice with the patients.
And then I went to clinical school.
Yeah. So how I mean, that was the next logical step, or that is what you wanted to do?
That was just what happened when you switched to medicine.
All right, cool. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
And look, having 5 years of medical school ahead of me was really like a relief, because now I had something to do for the next 5 years that would be interesting, and that was great.
By the way, she said that's the one.
Yeah. I only know one canon piece. I can't remember. I'm sure canon means a certain type of piece. But that's the famous one, right? So I told my parents I was switching, and they were like, okay. Had huge financial implications to them as an overseas student here, but they were perfectly fine with it. So I lived in some kind of bubble where I didn't even consult with them. All right. I told them I was switching. They were fine. So luckily I had these parents who could afford it and were very supportive. I went to clinical school. And then clinical medicine is you learn with patients. And that was just like, it was great. You again, listen, you're training to be a doctor, but I was studying with my fellow students from the university, and you know, we'd go around as student gangs, and there was a student house, and it was very much like a continuation of A levels on one level, except we were seeing real human beings and having conversations with people as part of our training.
Right.
And you know, I actually shied away a lot from the contact with people. I preferred doing the book work. But cumulatively over 3 years, you do spend a lot of time with people, and you know, and medicine is very, so it's interesting. The book work of it was very interesting. The people side of it I found kind of like messy. People are messy in their answers. There's nothing precisely, like, you know, so tell me why are you here? You know, what's the problem you're having while you're here? Anything could come out of someone's mouth, right? You know, it's like, how are you gonna, it just seems so like conversation. Now I was recording conversations, you know, every conversation with a patient, we call it taking the history, was like an interview, you know, and it was challenging. The skills to hear what you need to hear in that conversation and fit it into the structure of medical history taking. Well, that's what we were at work on.
Right. And I wanna ask you, right? Because that is the thing, that when you get to the doctor, right, whatever comes out of your mouth, they need to put it in perspective of how can they treat you or what disease is going on, right? There's a lot of things going on. So you were just saying, I just want to know how was that for you? How are you still finding that? Because I find it extraordinary, right? Like you describe, I never looked at it the way you describe it now. You know, doctors are like, so we'll generalize here, so to speak, a little joke, but like a truck driver, right? They drive, they go left and right, right? So if you have this disease, they give you this pill. If you have this disease, they give you this pill. And it's all automatic, right? In so to speak, in a way. But it's still this recognizing we, when there is a human factor, always is this, like you said, anything can come out of the mouth, and then you work with that, and people are not always precise, right? Because sometimes they don't even know what's going on with them. They just say a couple of symptoms, maybe. So yeah, I mean, it's just really brilliant what you just said. Gives me a like a new perspective on it.
Yeah, it's I felt really incompetent
Mm.
at taking a history to start with. And look, there's a method to it, right? You start with the traditional history, at least. You start with what's the presenting complaint, okay? Now that doesn't mean if I said to you, Urinate, go off and find out what that person's presenting complaint is, And we don't mean complaint as in someone's complaining, right? It's the presenting problem, right?
Mm.
But there's the presenting complaint, there's the history of the presenting complaint, there's the past medical history, there's the medications that they're on or recently were on. Plus, don't forget their allergies. If you don't ask that, the point you prescribe, you'll find you have to ask the allergies, right?
Mm.
There's their social history, their job, where they've lived and worked, and who their family are, and their whether alcohol and drugs and smoking, right? There's what we call the systems, the family history of any medical problems. And then there's a systems inquiry, there's a list of questions you might ask anyone. If I was speaking to you, I might say, okay, let's, any problems with your breathing, any cough, any chest pain, this kind of thing, right? There's like, the different systems, genitourinary system, blah, 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 right? So there's a whole range of questions you might just ask routinely, screening questions, And I think I've covered it, right? And that's the history. And it's how much of that you're supposed to take with one person, right? Like initially, we just go through each one and try and remember, okay, present a complaint, that's easy. Why are you here? You got a headache. Oh, great, headache. History presenting complaint, There's like, if it's a pain, we have all kind of mnemonics, right? There's one in my mind that will make no sense to you. Sridoka, SRIDOCA. This hasn't come out of my mouth in about 10 years, okay? Site, radiation, intensity. I can't remember what the T is probably time course. O, onset. C would be characteristic, and A is associated symptoms, right? That's if you have a pain. It's like we have.
Man, I need to stop you here because I'm observing myself and my brain is on fire trying to get what you're saying. But I get it's like, but it's cool.
This, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
that exploring someone's history is a real. You work through. Okay, it's a pain. You work through these questions, right? It's a breathlessness. You work through these questions. It's like whole it's exhausting to learn it. And most of my preoccupation early on was trying to remember all the different groupings of questions I'm supposed to ask. And oh my God, and even into my third year as a medical student, I was still trying to preoccupied with remembering it, And it's probably exhausting for people. I went to Australia on an elective, and a woman came in and had a headache, and I asked her all these questions, and I went to present her case to the doctor, and by the time I came back, she left because all she wanted was 2 paracetamol Urinate. And I couldn't just say, oh, you got a headache, here's 2 paracetamol. I had to go, okay, tell me, where exactly in the head is it, Going anywhere else? How intense is it?
Yeah.
Because I was practicing all that stuff. Now, after a while, you start to get what's relevant and what's not. And that really, for me, in my experience, it took years, and it took being a doctor. It took a few years of being a doctor as well. And that's when you really start seeing people in earnest. So, and now, I've been a doctor for 19 years. And at some point I realized I have, it's ingrained in me.
But how did you were doing medical school, and now you are, oh man, I forgot the word. You're doing oncologist, yeah. How do you pick oncology? I mean, out of all the things, why oncology?
Hey, I'm going to come to that in a moment, right? I just want to say something you said earlier about you go to a doctor, they have the disease, they just give you this medicine, right? For me, the critical thing for a doctor is to get the diagnosis, right? And we don't know the disease until the doctor diagnoses it. That's their job, right? That really is our skill, or what you're supposed to count on us for. And it's the diagnosis plus what we call the differential diagnosis. It's everything else it could be. And actually, the important thing as a doctor is to have a list of possibilities, not just say this is what it is. It's like we're always supposed to have, okay, we'll treat for this, but there could be this,
Yeah, you know what my mind is not trying to compare. I watched Doctor House. I know it has nothing to do with reality, by the way, but the series. So my mind is like, possibly, yeah, all right, cool. Trying to get with it. I mean, it's just why I'm saying it, because it's so cool, right? I never spoke with a doctor about how the doctor works go. And then as a human beings, what I want to present here is just that, we try to fit in the conversation. And I don't want to like being here, yeah, I know that, because I don't know. And it's challenging for me to listen to this. And it's so cool and it's so awesome, right? Because that's really what's going on, like how you perceived it, of course, but it's still, that's how it goes. That's the doctor practices. So it's so cool. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's kind of pops out. Yeah.
No worries. It's not like someone comes to me and I go, oh, this is this.
Yeah.
I actually don't do that. I might think that's that. But what I do is I go through systematically.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it, I have a list. And I'm pretty confident I think I know which one it is at the top, or which one should be pushed to the top. That's hard to crystallize this, right? You gotta treat what's dangerous if you miss it, and you gotta treat what's obvious as well, right? But the whole process of learning how to take a history and examine someone, it's not like you practice, and eventually, I just learned to go follow the process, get all the information, and then I can't tell you how I come up with it always, right? I can just tell you that given all the information, it could be all these things. And it's hard to explain, right? But it's the practice of medicine, it's the practice, right?
Yeah.
But how did I switch to oncology? Well, it's interesting now because I faced the same crisis as a doctor as I faced as a student at university. I was like, now I just didn't feel much purpose as a doctor. I was a doctor doing different subjects. There weren't subjects, different specialties, right? Rotating through different specialties, rheumatology, chest medicine, etc., etc. And I really was just kind of like getting kind of jaded as a junior doctor. I just didn't feel like I was really that interested enough to do the work somehow. I'm just looking at that now, because I didn't really try to explain it to anybody at the time. All I could tell you was I didn't really have the same passion for being a chest doctor as the chest trainees had. Did not have passion for being a rheumatologist, which is, joints and immunology, right? Just didn't have it. I just didn't have the patience for it somehow. And, I switched to medicine because it was purposeful. But now I was a doctor, I didn't really have that much purpose apart now from actually turning up and doing my job interesting. And I was happy to be earning money, whatever money that was. That wasn't a tremendous amount compared to my peers, going off into the city or whatever. But that was okay. And you have to choose at certain points. You do junior doctor years, and then you have to choose a specialty. So that was a crisis for me. I didn't really know what to choose. And then I happened to do oncology as a rotation. I tried to swap out of it. I didn't want to do it at all. It was called radiotherapy, which one branch of oncology in the UK includes radiotherapy. It's a group of oncologists in the UK do everything basically, right? Including radiotherapy. And the job seemed to be labeled radiotherapy. It wasn't. It was oncology. And I tried to swap out of it because I thought it'd be depressing. And the oncologist who gave the talk when I was a general medical student, I thought looked a bit miserable. He turned out to be a very, very serious looking guy who was a complete joker when I got to know him, right? Very well-humored, very happy man. But sitting in a lecture theater, I just had these ideas about it. Anyway, so...
I know, but it's brilliant what you're sharing because, you need to decide and, you see all these things, which is how most of us go through motions, whatever decision there is to be taken.
yeah, I couldn't get someone to do oncology instead of me. So I had to do this job, which I didn't want to do. And it was just the greatest. They had this unit in Oxford where I worked, where the doctors I worked with were really happy. And what we did was extremely purposeful. You know, I'm not saying anything in medicine isn't purposeful, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, but some things really are crying out for an intervention or for you to do something, and there's no hint of this is not important when it comes to cancer. So I was like highly motivated, right, with every patient I saw with cancer, highly. You know, I had a cynical mind when it came to patients being admitted to hospital with a recurrent urinary tract infection for the 4th time that year, with a list of 20 medications. It's like, what am I doing here, you know? In the middle of the night, seeing patient after patient, where I just felt like, you know, these are my fellow human beings, that I'm talking about, like a 4th urinary tract infection. But that wasn't how I felt about people at the time. It was just trying to survive doing something that just seemed a bit repetitive and boring and not purposeful. But when someone had cancer, I was like, oh my God, like, we got to do something. And I just found, my experience was the cancer patients were from a very diverse range of backgrounds. They had less other medical problems. They were actually more, on average, alert than the population of elderly, ill patients I've been treating in hospital before, and more engageable in the conversation. And I was genuinely relieved to have a problem that was so important in the midst of often not many other problems to deal with. I started saying to people, finally I've found something, this is easy, which sounds crazy. How can you, an oncologist, say this is easy? But motivationally, it was easy. So that was a big deal. I just had to be doing something. Me personally had to be doing something that was very, very, very obviously obvious. And a tumor on a scan is obviously obvious, whatever the size, right? Whereas an antibody level, if the normal range is 10 to 30 and the antibody level is 32, what does that mean? You know, I wasn't as interested in that kind of results, a symbolic result, you know, number 32 in a range that's statistically normal range, 95% normal. No, you show me a tumor, oh my God. Like, so I was really motivated in that. But I got to tell you again, it was like, it also was an element of, like, you know, you do your favorite subject with your favorite teacher, right? I'm not religious, but religious studies in Barbados with my teacher was amazing. He was so entertaining, and everybody got 10 out of 10 in every test because he made it possible. And we had a great time with him, you know?
Yeah.
And
got it.
Oncology had a doctor in charge who made sure we had to go to our training. That didn't happen. Most places your training was kind of neglected because everyone's busy, right? So if you didn't go to your training, that's fine. No. There's a doctor there, Dr. Sugden, who would come down and kick us off the ward. And she would say, we've organized this other doctor who covers for you when you're on training. Here she is. Go to your training or else I'll report you. So off we had to go to our training. You know, they were really a high integrity group of people for our training. And it was just a really well-staffed department. Plus, my fellow Dr. Liz was this wonderful, wonderful woman. She works in Singapore now, who was so, I don't think she actually hugged me every morning, but my recollection is as if she gave me a hug every morning and said, here's your cup of tea, Dan, right? I was so loved up by my fellow junior doctor in this job, and I just loved it. We had a piano on the ward too.
Which is just perfect.
A piano on the ward, and we play Einaudi, you know, this lovely music that the patient gave us. So, and the other thing is, it's very multidisciplinary. Lots of people work together, and you know, there's often no right or wrong. You know, you're dealing with something really important. People are very vulnerably there, and it's kind of, there's definitely a philosophical element to it. You know, some people are not going to be cured, and what are you going to do about it? You know, there's some really hard real life questions to conversations to have with people, and I found that interestingly, I found the people who worked in that area very inspiring. So I found the patients are hugely inspiring. Hugely. I'm literally in awe of my patients. You know, like, I don't know how they do it. I'm not them. I can't be a patient. I'm not. That's not my job with them, right?
Mm.
But I'm in awe. And the staff members who work in it, who have those conversations and spend time with them and care about the patients, they're fantastic. So I'm sure a lot of people in other specialties in medicine would say the same about their colleagues and about finding purpose in their area. But for me, it was, let's just say, I cannot imagine another area of medicine I would like to be in.
Mm.
Or surgery.
Yep.
And by the way, surgery, medicine, I did medicine because medicine started 9 o'clock in the morning and surgery started at 8. I promise you, if surgery started at 9 and medicine started at 8, I'd have been a surgeon. That literally was how complicated the decision was for me, medicine, surgery. That literally was it. I promise you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's brilliant what you're sharing in so many levels, but one is right, because we always think about, think for the next 40, 50 years, and here you are, you're just looking what would suit you in the next step, not even like, you didn't have the step after step, you didn't have the whole map.
One step at a time, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that is a great, like, so to speak, advice, right? For I would give also personally for every human being, right? Go after what interests you, fulfill on that, and then choose from there, because I don't say that's the right thing, but it's a way, right? You can have your whole map out, brilliant. It's also great for some people. It works great, and for some people might be go step after step after step, and you kind of put it together brilliant in a way. You did what was convenient for you, but in that convenience you also find a lot of satisfaction and motivation, right? Because you said I chose medicine over surgery because surgery started 8 and medicine started 9. But anyway, when you were there, you weren't thinking about, if surgeon would be at 9, I would be doing now other stuff that are more interesting, but I'm not doing it because it starts at 8. You weren't comparing, but you just chose or decide, and you were there. At least it sounds like by what you're sharing. Yeah.
I think the interesting thing, Journey, is, look, I'm happy with whatever accomplishments as a doctor, and I'm aware that it's a significant achievement, right? Or a high status position, and I do have a lot of responsibility and privilege as a result of that, right? And yet the decisions were not very, very, for me, they weren't very courageous or bold decisions. They were like little tiny decisions got me here, right? But for me, I think the thing is, it wasn't, right? I enjoy my work, but it wasn't a life lived inside of a dream. I'm really aware of that. I'm not living the dream life. No, sorry. Let me take it back, right?
All right. Well, you have a chance to rephrase it while we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a life that I sat down with as a kid and created as my life dream. It would be interesting to go back and, I'm really happy where I'm in my life, but it'd be interesting to go back and think, what would be the dream life? I'd have chosen a whole different life, I'd have chosen to do something in music or acting or something artistic even, I don't know. Maybe I'd have sat down and chosen to be a teacher. I have no idea, because that isn't how I approach my life. And so even now, at my stage of life, I'm still like, what is the life I really, really, really want to live? Because I have wound up in a very satisfying life through making lots of tiny decisions.
Yeah.
And I do think, and how I am about it is lucky me. Lucky me that I was in a position to make lots of reactive decisions that landed me in this position. But I'm not that anybody else couldn't do that, for example, and I think that's a different set of decisions. I'd have ended up with whatever situation I'd have ended up in as well, perhaps just as happy, but it was not this is what my life goal is in life at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I got it.
I could have ended up being an engineer. One day I walked to the medical lecture. If I'd walked to the engineering lecture, I could have done that. It was like very blown by chance. It seems to be, anyway.
Yeah, but you know what's great, and Karina said inspiring, is that, out of you're reacting to life, so to speak, right? With those decisions, it's like you still find the passion in that, which is a brilliant thing, I think. So to look, because there's a lot of a lot of people who are out there or will be out there reacting to life and end up in some job or another, but not be really passionate about it. So it's really a brilliant thing that you found out passion in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was needed. I did need to do something very purposeful.
Yeah. And it's also great what you shared before in like how you see your patients, that you're a doctor but you're like in awe of all of them, how they do it, you don't know. And inside of that, I have a question, right? Because it is out there, it's a cancer, we know it's a high rate of death anyway. So how do you deal with that, to go to look that aspect of being oncologist, being a doctor who treats patients and they don't make it, like, and it's life don't make it. It's not that they lose a leg or they don't make it.
Yeah, well, I suppose at some point I had to come to terms with that. So it wasn't straightforward
Mm-hmm.
initially. You know, I had to learn to break news to people that there was nothing else available and things were likely to get worse, right? Or whatever words I may have used for that scenario, right? There is such a scenario where there's no useful treatment at that point, either because someone's not fit enough to receive it or there just isn't another known treatment option.
Mm-hmm.
And, at that point, you don't just disappear as a doctor. You're there to navigate that with someone. And I, used to, initially I was kind of crushed by the weightiness of having that conversation with someone, you know? And then early on as a first year specialist trainee, there was a lung cancer patient who, was now in a wheelchair, and she was not fit enough for further chemotherapy, which had a more chance of making it worse than better in a hurry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I'm so sorry, we can't do anything more useful to combat the cancer. Now, if I was having that conversation with someone these days, I may say completely different words, right? But she leant over, put her hand on my shoulder and said, it must be so hard for you. That's what she said. She was in her 60s and I was in my early 30s. And she was, in that conversation, concerned for my well-being. Having to break that news to her. Incredible.
It is, right?
Yeah. And I had to walk away from that. She really made a difference to me because I really walked away with that people don't expect you to be anything more than human. I shifted my expectations from I need to survive this difficult conversation to, providing whatever they needed me to provide them and being with whatever I need to be with them. So that wasn't easy to start with even then, right?
Yeah.
As a trainee,
although
I would always see the next patient in line because that was how I approached my practice. I would take the next patient. I didn't choose. The next person who was to be seen was the person I saw, right? But I would really, really be stressed out when I had to see people where the news was bad, because initially it is very stressful to be with. It's just like, you don't know how people are going to react, but people you have to work to have people burden you as a doctor, in my experience, incredibly. You have to work. People will not burden you. They won't burden anyone. People, in my experience, don't want to burden anyone with anything, even their own death, incredibly.
Yeah. True.
So it's interestingly, I was very rarely left devastated by my patient's bad news because they didn't leave me with it. They were just great with me and appreciative. It's incredible, that people don't leave you with, they don't shoot the messenger in reality.
That is why
they don't.
Yeah.
But they do need you to do a good job. And ultimately, that was very much, like I tell you, I was very focused. This was a major problem people had, and it wasn't okay for me, I'm sure, any oncologist, not to know what's really going on with someone so you can answer all their questions. And you cannot send someone away without having considered a treatment that might make a difference. So, you know, I really was, it wasn't like I sent them away thinking, oh, we have done this, could we have done, no, we really couldn't. They're really, so the shift was towards how are they going to have the best life possible. And, um, and people, here's the thing, here's the important thing that I provide people as a consultant is some leadership in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much no one's ever died before of cancer, and I haven't, but they need to know what next. How are you gonna? So I really feel it's my job to really have a look with them at what's going to have them have the best life possible for the rest of their lives. So I used to think there's no hope. Someone's dying, there's just no hope, right? This is gloomy, all doom and gloom. I don't think that at all now, because there's always hope for providing clarity, support, making sure people are plugged in with who they need to be plugged in with, supporting them and having tough conversations with members of the family. And, and they need that. Supporting people with when their relatives should come from abroad. I sometimes tell people, get them over. You might be around for a few weeks or a few months, but that's fine. But I recommend they come over, You can, where people are worried about bothering other people, you can actually provide that support in their decision making, or help a couple talk about it between each other in a room where you can just see there's like, they don't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
So it's like really, what was the question again? Dealing with people dying.
I mean,
cancer causes people to die.
And it's so brilliant what you shared, the initial part, the whole part, but I was left with when you said the lung cancer patient, right? That she was ill, like end of the life ill, and she was being in your world.
Yeah.
More concerned about like your world than her world, right? And it's, and we also know each other from other leadership program where basically we train that, right? How to dance in other people's worlds, in conversation, be with them in their worlds. And it's so funny that is not, my thought is that is not that is there for us all the time available, right? But it's like either we need to train in that, or we need to get really sick to be available to do that, which is, that's what I was in there, man, So this woman who was to that ill is more concerned about, how Danny is doing, saying that news to her, than her being, in the face of, this might be it.
That's right. People are like gods in that way,
Yeah.
Patients, they're incredible.
And then when you say I'm in awe with every patient, I'm like, you get in touch with that. So yeah. And what you share then, it's like, to support them in how to deal with life. And then basically you're everything else but the doctor. It's like, it sounds like being the doctor is the easy part. You're diagnosing and stuff like that, but then being with the people, right? And saying the news when the news is bad, it's like, man, that is the extra thing that, most people don't think about.
Well, I think that's the privilege of being a doctor, is people really listen to you.
And
you have that credibility, and that is your role in it. I see that as my role in those situations.
Yeah.
And look, some people are very upset with their situation. It's not easy, Some people are angry, upset, just sad, confused, all kind of ways. That woman was accepting, you could say.
Yeah.
There was a peace about her, right? But whether someone is that way or not, it's still, the fact is they're still dealing with something I've never had to deal with. And they know, they only know how they'll deal with it. In fact, I don't even try to help them come to terms with stuff often, because I just know they will. I don't know how they do it. They do. You know, I offer whatever I offer, but ultimately it's not like you tell someone this, they're at terms with it. No, they'll come to terms with it. And often people can come to terms with it and be very, very peaceful. I don't know how, because I've not been in that situation, right? But I know it happens a lot. I know it's possible, and yeah, I just know it's possible.
Yeah, I guess that's the answer. You know, it's possible. It's like you provide a clearing for them, or I would say all the doctors provide the space for that to be possible, right? Because if you would be running around and they don't accept it well, and you will be all crushed, and then you will, the whole blog goes into the drama. It's like it would never be possible. I think it will be like, it will be all hectic all the time. But it's like with you providing, all right, I will tell to them, and they will react to it however they will react to it. It doesn't mean anything about me as a doctor or me as a human being. It's just they need to deal with the process, and they will deal with it at the end. I mean, eventually they will deal with it. Let's say, call it that would be the better word.
Yeah. My experience is you have to work with people. You have to work hard to have people deal with it with you. They deal with it with whoever they deal with in their life. Usually, and I provide whatever I can provide, but the consultations with patients are often very light, very factual. It's whatever they want to know, whatever they want to discuss, and what I need to get through as well. And it's not a lot of I work in the National Health Service, and we have busy clinics, right? And so the experience isn't we have lots and lots of time to talk about aspects other than what you need me, treating oncologist, to deal with, So there are other people they speak with.
Yeah, but I really appreciate you sharing this, because that is the insight of, like, when it's one thing to read about doctors, it's one thing to watch series, how we the how the doctor works is like, we know this, the Chicago and the Doctor House and stuff like that, all that, right? But it's whole another thing to to actually talk to a doctor who is out there on the field and willing to openly sharing, like you are, right? How you deal with stuff as being a doctor and doing something purposeful and finding purpose in that, which is just amazing. So
a lot of team working as well, Renee. It's very satisfying. From the doctor's perspective, we work in teams. At least I do. Fellow doctor, specialist nurse, clinic nurses, secretary. You work as a team.
Yeah. All right. We know you have some other passions that I will ask you about them in a second. I just want to know, with this whole situation going on in the world with the COVID, right? How it is actually out there on the field from your experience?
Yeah, and I have limited experience of dealing with COVID. In fact, I don't treat COVID patients. And some of my patients have caught COVID and been all right. Like they catch it, but they're not. Some of them have even been in hospital. They've all been okay. The main impact working as a non, hospital, inpatient treating doctor, mainly my work is outpatients, right? Is on a consultation shifting to like being over the telephone, versus in person. Right. And that's the practical aspect of it. But then also the degree of concern we've had about everyone catching COVID has been going up and down, right? So in March, April this year, 2020, it was like, we thought huge proportion of people might catch COVID, patients and staff alike. So we were kind of like triaging when we're going to treat people, pushing back people's treatments. They don't have to be treated now. Let's push it back, because if you start the treatment now, I give radiotherapy treatments. If you start radiotherapy, you don't finish it, then that's a problem. You can't go back and restart it quite often. You've missed the chance to cure it if you don't finish a course in one go. So if you start someone on a treatment, they get COVID, that's the end of their cancer treatment. The possibility of curing their cancer. So I treat prostate cancer. We would delay the treatment as long as possible. So that, like, it's not, we're pretty streamlined in cancer services. We treat people when they're supposed to be treated, or when just as soon as you normally treat them. So now we're delaying certain groups of people. Some people where a treatment might work, a little might increase the cure rate a little bit. We might not give them that treatment now, because if they got chemotherapy and COVID, we think, without much evidence at that point, that they would do terribly, right? So basically, what I'd say is this, right? We are constantly, as cancer specialists, juggling with the benefit and the risk of a treatment. And I would say that COVID didn't upset that too much for me as an oncologist, because all COVID became was an additional possible risk.
All right.
Which I'm constantly juggling anyway. The challenge was, it was like, how do you, society is terrified of COVID. And as a doctor, I'm also like, okay, you might get COVID, but I don't know what the risk is really, right? The problem with COVID is, I know statistically the risk of fatigue, nausea, vomiting, being admitted with a serious infection, blah, 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 right? I know statistically the chance of something increasing the cure rate. But the COVID statistics were like, everyone's got their own opinion probably. It's just not as clear who's going to get COVID. So it's like a fair factor that was factored into all my consultations. But I think we took it in our stride. And, I think a lot of treatments that had a tiny percentage benefit, but cumulatively would have helped tens of thousands of people, haven't been given. So there'll be like excess cancer deaths because we've not treated people with treatments that have a tiny advantage to stop them coming to hospital, stop them being exposed to COVID, to stop them having chemotherapy when they might have COVID. I wonder if I'm answering your question here. As an oncologist, I don't think there was too much. There was a disruption to the way we worked, and that's actually. I was going to say it's not too much disruption, right? But the services were so streamlined that once you change it put a big strain on the system. And at the same time, we sort of had the green light not to treat people quite often, and that took strain off the system.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stress for patients in this.
Yeah, but you answered it from the perspective of your profession, or let's say from your, I don't know how to say, let's say profession of as an oncologist, right? And that's the most authentic answer, so to speak, out there, right? But you said it's like it's delaying treatments. It's like another risk factor in the decisions, which is like you were not used to, so you needed to adapt, and the whole system needed to adapt, right, in there. So it sounds like nobody knows the impact of this on a midterm or long term anyway, right? On a short term, maybe, all right, we're preventing them to get COVID, but like you said, with patients whose cancer is slowly progressing, it's now progressing because it's not stopped due to fear of the infection, and we don't know what that's going to be the impact in long term. And
I mean, quite quickly we got back to a point where if we want to treat someone and recommend it, we will treat given there's COVID.
Okay.
COVID just another circumstance, and just another risk out there. I don't think it's impacting my practice very much at the moment.
Right. All right. Fair enough, right? I cannot ask you how it is in hospital because you just said it. I'm out there. All right, so let's go briefly to other areas like that you're passionate about. What you mentioned, music. How come? Where from?
Yeah, and I don't know how much other areas we'll be able to cover, by the way. About another 15 minutes. Time flies,
Yeah, exactly, right? I told you, like, people have concern when I ask them to be here on the talk show with me, and they say, how much is it? And I say, look, I have scheduled 1 hour, but it was never shorter than I think 1 hour 20 minutes was the shortest, and the longest was 2 hours and a half. So as long as we have topics and the flow is there. But you said you have time until 10. It's a fair thing. You have the next thing. So yeah, let's just briefly answer in that manner, right? So why music? And that's basically it. So where did you find the passion for it, and why you mentioned piano, right? It could be anything else, but yeah.
Yeah, piano mainly. Look, my parents bought a piano when I was 13, and I just like playing arpeggios.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Playing, I just love the instrument, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went off to boarding school, I started to learn some classical pieces, and I think piano is or playing any instrument. I play guitar as well. I'm not a musician, by the way, right? If you said to me, sit down and play Happy Birthday, we're stuffed, you know. But I could sit down and play some complex pieces that I learned in the past, some classical pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I can have a go at playing parts of them. I think music is just for me, just very, very, very joyful. You know, I love the fact that you can, let me see, joyful. Okay. So there's a couple things. Learning like a piano piece, if you practice and practice and practice, and the same thing goes for guitar,
Mm-hmm.
you go from like sounding terrible or being so slow. I mean, honestly, so you can. There's a piece called the third movement of the Moonlight Sonata. Everyone knows the first movement; it's beautiful. The third movement, I learned that piece in about, I don't know how many months it took me. I played it every day for an hour, and to start with, you could never have imagined that I'd been able to play this piece, right? Day in, day out, very, very, very slowly, and then there comes a point where you can play a piece and it becomes about slowing it down. A piece that seems too ridiculous to play, you actually have to pace yourself and slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't possibly consciously think about what you're doing. You haven't got you kind of know that you're
Yeah.
kind of know you're doing what you're doing, right? You've practiced it, but you can't possibly be doing it thinking sort of one note after another, right? You have to lose some kind of like control over. It's just not. It's happened so quickly, right? But there comes a point where you play the piece, you know you can play the piece, and it becomes for me about how hard I'm putting my hand down on the keyboard. It's like my brain is playing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm playing it, but my brain's playing it. I clearly learned it. I took the time to learn it, and it's just amazing when you see that you can, you know, all the notes sound like they're being pressed as hard, perhaps in a particular segment, you know, but they're, you know, it's comfortable to press it with this finger. It's comfortable to press it with that finger. It's very uncomfortable to press it with that finger, but it still sounds just a bit more comfortable to press with this finger. So I'm playing something that sounds perfectly fine and peaceful, but the amount of practice it took to get that little finger out there to press that note, and hit it exactly the same time as another note or something. It's like, I don't know how to explain this, man. It's just amazing when you learn something and it just sounds fantastic, but it took so much practice. And I don't think without music, I think some sports, if you play squash, you can learn to hit a squash ball so it sticks along the wall, which is ridiculous. How can you hit a ball and it's just going down the wall and you're hitting it, it's literally clinging to the wall, you know? That's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. When you play something, do something so practiced, you become so expert at something. But music's just, it's just like, my God, my brain can do that. And I love that I could learn pretty much anything. That's how I feel about music.
That's amazing.
Whether you want to learn it or not is another question. But I would say to anybody, you want to play a piece, just start practicing. You'd be surprised. You have to figure out how to translate music to the notes on it, but you'd be surprised what you could learn. And I'm just like blown away by. I've never gotten over that, right? So I just love to play it, right? I feel like I need to explain why I love to play it. I just love to play it.
We can feel it, like, just by the way you approached and you know, went in there, explain, right? When in fact you just love to play it and everything that comes along with it, and that is one thing. And it's perfect. It's also brilliant what you share. After you practice, you cannot consciously do it, just like you cannot consciously breathe. If you would consciously breathe, you would die, because to think in the brain, you know, now I will, you know, go, I don't even know physiology of breathing, but, you know, going in the lungs and then, you know, open the mouth, you know, or nose breathe. It's like, what, right? And yeah, for the music it's pretty much the same. I have that experience with the piano. I did play a couple of pieces long time ago, learned them only by watching YouTube and pressing the buttons. I don't know the notes, but I know the buttons. That's all there is. and the sequences, right? But it is like then you can play it. Some of them I can still play it, and it didn't play the piano for years. Just like when you learned it, you learned it, you know it. So
Yeah. And you know what I want to do now? You're like, honestly, I've learned some piano pieces that took hours and hours and hours and hours and days worth of practice. But I want to play some pop pieces
right.
where, interestingly, even though they sound simpler, it still requires that you put the practice in to get to know to play it.
Right. I play the
Right?
sequence of clocks. You know, the
Oh, yeah.
clocks is the song, which I don't know the band. You see, that's how good I am. I just know there are the clocks. You know, like, I won't go how it goes because that's not my thing at the moment. It is. I presume myself as I'm no musician, no singer, but you know.
Is it Coldplay?
It's Coldplay, exactly. It is Coldplay clocks. Yeah. I don't. No, don't take it because I don't know. I don't know, but I know what to press, right? But it's like
Yeah. But just to learn something, even something that doesn't sound like some complex piece, but to learn it and be able to, like, if you're gonna sing as well, that's like, you know, there can be a lot of joy in playing some things, but you still got to practice it. So now, even though I feel like I play classical pieces well, I just want to play a piece for someone else to sing while I'm playing it.
All right.
Or to play it and sing it myself, you know, because that's coordination. It's like, yeah. So, and honestly, when it comes to music, I can't come up with any like meaningful, this is why you should do it. It's just, I want to do it because I want to do it. I think it'd be fun to play music and sing with my friends. That's it.
I mean, and that's how simple it can be to find your passion. You do it because you do it. That's it. Awesome. All right, regarding we have 10 minutes and we usually also cover the area of romantic relationship, which is like a popular. And I know you have a passion for something else. So maybe briefly, you share from whatever you want to share with us, like that you think would inspire people in some way or give them some insight or stuff like that.
Man, I don't really know this. Do you know, I gotta tell you, there's nothing. If you say, Danny, what's philosophy you want to leave people with? I don't know if I have one, or there's something I have to leave people or want to leave people with, romantic relationships. I'm not in a romantic relationship. I've wanted to be married since I was 17, you could say, right?
All right.
I had this notion of being in a wonderful relationship. And look, that's just not how it is at this moment in time, but it's still important to me. Personally in life, I think it's still a critical thing.
Well, you're a teenager, so you have time. but yeah, it's like.
And when it comes, I suppose, if it comes to what else I'm passionate about, I experience being very, so significant during my teenage years and early adult years, and it's really personal development I've done in the last 8 years or so that has got me, being less so like positional about things, and I think how it is for me is like I'm increasingly coming to terms with I just want to have fun in life and enjoy the company of people and enjoy the time that I have now and make sure that other people are enjoying the time they have now as well. I'm definitely aware of being stuck in a conversation for wanting more money, not having enough money, even though I'm presumably more comfortable for money than most people, or I probably have more job security, etc., etc. If I want to continue being an oncologist, right? I'm like, stuck in this is what I need to do. I need to work. I need to earn all that stuff. Really, really driven by that, right? And I've not played piano for a couple of months now. And I'm telling you, it's on some level, I've been very upset for a couple of months, right? Keep putting it off. Same with just going and doing exercise. During the lockdowns, having so much fun. I don't know why I stopped Journey, but doing things I enjoy doing with people I enjoy doing with, it really, really is the most important thing. And I'm just in this period of my life, appearing successful just because I'm a doctor and a specialist, really interested in how am I going to have a life, to be straight with you, that's not simply driven by needing to earn money.
Mm.
Because I think, I would say money is not everything, but most of my time in life is still spent, most of my waking energetic time is still spent in doing something that earns me money. And this might sound very strange to say or worrying to say because I'm a doctor and you'd think this is my vocation, but given I work for money, I love what I do. But I sort of would be very interested in a world where, this is very personal, where I wasn't driven by this money conversation, I'd love to spend most of my time doing stuff I'd love to do.
Yeah, we just had a podcast on money on Monday, and we shared how how we see money, and then in the end, it's always funny. Then in dictionary says money is coin and paper that you buy things with, or you have a certain amount of it. And that's all their money is, and we have so much stories around it. But yeah, I totally get it. Right, for you, it's like I love to do what I do, and whatever I do earns money. So it's kind of seems logical, I don't play piano, like you stopped because you stopped. That's the only reason, nothing else. You don't play because you don't play, but there is something in behind, maybe that's clearing. It doesn't earn me money, so why would I do it? Even though I love to do it, right? So and it's really awesome what you share. It's so like it's really humanity out there, like really authentically sharing. And I really appreciate that, because I can say through the whole thing that we went through, there was no, I didn't sense it, and I'm trained in sensing that we both are like, if you want to look good, or we're being inauthentic, trying just to impress something, but you're just really out there. This is me, this is what I went through, this is what I'm dealing with right now, and I think that this is it, for you at the moment, and for us, and I think we all could pick so much from you, like in a way, and to give us to give me, I would say, I don't know for everybody who's listening for the chat, but I would say to give me the insight on how doctors approach things and what is necessary. It's just like put the whole another perspective on for myself on it. And I also thought you're this serious guy, who is doing work. And even when we met, you're like, hey, Ernie, man, how this goes. And I'm like, hey, whoa, that's Danny? I don't know you like that. So it's really cool to get to know you on being,
yes.
like, it's okay. He's not this high, I mean, high. Never had the judgment that, you look down on people. But it's just like, looking always so serious, and and now see you relaxed, and it's so cool.
Thank you. I'm well trained at, looking like I know what I'm doing. I often do. I sometimes don't. It's like by default, I'm so scared growing up in life, looking like I was stupid because I thought I was. Just lost interest in that. And by default, it's still there for me.
And always will be. That's the funny part of it. It will go away one day, but that's how it's gonna be today. All right, guys. If you have any more questions for Danny, shoot now, because he needs to leave in 4 minutes. We wrap this up. Otherwise, we will wrap it up. Danny, it was such a pleasure to have you here. So, any last words? How it was for you? Your experience of it?
Yeah, like I don't do interviews often, so Yoni, thank you. Thanks for taking an interest in me, just allowing me to hear myself speak.
Sure.
Time flew. Thank you.
You're welcome. I got it, and you did brilliant, like I said before, like really.
Thank you.
I just don't like when people use word interview. It's like I see more. Look, it's a talk show. We give, but I get the motion is like that, so it's okay.
What was it then?
It's a talk show with guests. It's like we just debate about life. You're a guest, and that's it.
Thanks for letting me be a guest in your talk show.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm learning.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's like, a lot of people see this as an interview, and in a way it is, right? But I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we would have these conversations, like similar conversations with all the people we don't know, and you get to meet them and you ask them, "Hey, how are you? What are you doing?" And you kind of end up 2 hours sharing yourself, what you went through, and the other guy is really interested in what you went through. I think that's
kudos to you for taking this on, Yoni. I really respect you. It takes a lot of courage to get into conversation with people, and I think to pay attention to whatever they're saying, which isn't necessarily what you do in your life.
Well, thank you. All right, guys, this is, I saw one thing that I like, I in the moment I will share this. It's like when you were sharing, I was like leaning like this and really was in front of you because my screen is this big and camera is a little bit on the right side. So it looks like I'm looking away somewhere, beyond, but it's actually, I have you here. Like right now I'm looking right at you. And I was like, being here looking at you, and it on the camera, it looks like I'm watching away from the thing. But yeah, it's like I just saw that in between, so I'll figure something out to be more.
It works.
So,
I think you can tell we're all getting used to on Zoom and looking wherever they're looking on the screen. Don't look in the camera. Who am I looking at? Right? Obviously, I'm looking at the audience. Let's say, but I look on you at the screen.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. All right.
Ring like my doorbell. Right? It's gonna go off.
All right. Thank you, Danny, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
Everybody who watched, thank you. We'll pack this up. It will be on YouTube tomorrow. I will also send you a link, Danny, so if you want to share with somebody, or it's really cool thing. I think anybody who want to ask you who is Danny, you'll go, here is the show, watch it. You get to know me, talk to you in 2 hours. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. See ya tomorrow. Bye chat.
Bye.